Dorsiflexion with high jumping. What's up, y'all? My name is Dontavious Hill, three-time Team USA high jumper, and today I'll be talking to you guys about why you should be dorsiflexion when you're high jumping. So first off, when we are dorsiflex, it allows us to have a better position whenever we're taking off, into the pit. And when I say better position, when we're coming around our curve, what you tend to see a lot of athletes do is as they're coming around their curve, they tend to, instead of planting that foot 45 degrees to the back corner of the pit, which is what it should be, they tend to have that parallel foot to the pit, right? And what that does is that can put unnecessary and awkward forces up through our leg and our shin, and our knee, and because we're not in alignment. Okay, and as a high jumper, body positions and angles are so important. And when we have that parallel foot, not only are we not in alignment and it's sending these awkward and weird forces up our leg, it's also causing us to jump incorrectly. Okay, so with the parallel foot, sometimes we're just going to be over-rotating, almost turning our back to the bar. I've seen that. And I've also seen with a parallel foot, the athlete pushes off of the foot and goes directly toward the bar and doesn't really travel up. Okay? And from my experience, I've tended to have a parallel foot at times when I'm trying too hard. Okay, so when we're high jumping as athletes, and for my parents and coaches, teaching our athletes or helping our athletes, we always need to be thinking about being efficient and having a good rhythm. If we're efficient and have a good rhythm, everything else is going to take care of itself. There's never a time when we have to I just got to try so hard and I'm going to clear. No. And I'm guilty of that as well. So what I was saying is that parallel foot kind of comes from trying a little bit too hard. It can cause us to, jump toward the bar that way or all this kind of stuff, right? Or send these forces up our legs. So when we're dorsiflex, what it does is if you just tried it right now and just pointed your toe upwards, if you just tried to point your toe upwards, tighten up your ankle, push it all upwards right now, you would see it naturally aligns itself. Your ankle naturally kind of aligns itself when you just kind of point your toes upward. And that's exactly what happens when you high jump and you take off dorsiflex. It points you naturally and aligns you naturally with the rest of your body, right? But if we were to have a loosey goosey ankle and it's just flopping around, our foot has potential to go anywhere. It can go this way, it can go that way. Like when we take off, like that ankle, if it's not tight, it can just roll right over. It'll just roll right on over. And I've done this in competition before. Not having a dorsiflex foot and planting sideways and literally almost pretty much jumping off the side of my ankle. And if you've ever watched any slow-mo videos of the high jump from any level, high school, college, professional, if you just watch and they show the foot ankle, you'll see a lot of athletes, they just roll over that ankle. They're jumping off the side of their ankle. They're not even jumping on their foot. And that can cause injury. That's going to cause soreness because you're not supposed to be jumping that way. And when we jump dorsiflex and we point that toe up, we can weed out some of that stuff so it never has to happen because we got a tight ankle. And when we take off, it's going to be straight. And it's going to be going in that 45-degree angle to the back corner of that pit and allowing us to travel in that direction, right? Because when we take off with that at that 45-degree angle to the back corner of that pit, we're going to travel that way because the angle of your foot also determines which direction you travel. It doesn't matter how many steps you're taking in the back. If you get to the pit and you just turn sideways and just try to jump, you just kind of killed all of your momentum, right? So when we're talking about positions, angles, all these things, point that foot in the right direction. You're going to be able to do that by dorsiflexing that foot at takeoff, and it's going to help you, right? So let's also talk about proper running mechanics. So the high jump is an event where there's a lot of focus on the jump itself. When people think high jump, they think, oh, bounce, you just got to jump high. That's why a lot of basketball players tend to go and try the event. The coaches just put them in like, oh, we got basketball players, they can jump, they can dunk, right? And what they don't understand is there's another part to the high jump, the run up. With the run up being so important, people kind of forget about that because they just hear high jump in the words of the event. And I think they can just go out there and jump over bars. And that's when you see many people go out there and they don't look too great when they go out and try to jump for the first time, because it's not what they thought it was. It's not what they thought it was at all. Right? So when we think about running mechanics, since the high jump is about the approach mostly, running mechanics, right? The better you run, the higher you're going to jump. I'm going to say that again. The better you run, the higher you are going to jump. And I know to some people, that may seem like awkward. Like, what if I just got bounced? Like, why does it matter how well I run? Because the majority of everything you're going to do is going to happen on the ground. And an important part of running is having a dorsiflexed foot. When we are running, we almost want to be like a sprinter when I'm talking technique. And I'm not saying like we should be like trying to sprint out, like sprint out full speed. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we want to be hitting these positions, pumping the arms, dorsiflex foot, getting the knee up, good rotation. All of this is sprint mechanics, and a dorsiflex foot is a part of that. Because every step that we take matters. Okay? Every step matters. And with the high jump being an event where we're trying to consistently generate momentum throughout the entire approach, why wouldn't we try and put ourselves in the best position to get as much force as we can? Because it's not going to happen with a loosey goosey floppy ankle. It's going to happen with a stiff, tight ankle that's ready to be reactive on the ground every time, with the toes pointed up, attacking the ground with the ball of our feet, dorsiflex. Every step. Just think about the difference there. The difference between taking 10 steps with just on the ground with loose ankles, bop, 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 and just trying to go and run, then boom, we're just going to try to jump as best as we can, versus thinking about two very stiff, tight ankles with boom, very reactive force each time it hits the ground. Boom, 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 boom. If you just think about it in that sense, you can kind of see why someone with dorsiflex feet or with proper mechanics will be able to be more efficient in the high jump. Right? And some athletes, they may feel like, well, I'm doing just fine right now. Well, you could be doing better if you were able to fix something like this. So simple it seems, right? So very simple. But it's a big fix that can yield great returns depending on where you are in your high jump journey. So we want to have dorsiflex feet, like I said, pretty much a stiff ankle, because what we got to understand is, guys, when we have these dorsiflex feet and when we take off dorsiflex, this tension is going up our entire leg. So just like earlier when I explained that dorsiflexion, if we have a loose ankle at takeoff, or if we're like parallel at takeoff, how awkward forces go up our leg and in our shin and knee and all of that because our leg is pointed the wrong way. The opposite is true in the inverse. When we have this dorsiflex foot and we have this good angle, we got all the right forces coming through our leg. Through the Achilles tendon that's tight, through the calf muscle, through the quad, all of that is going to engage all in one line. It's gonna all be in line like this pin. And when all of that engages in one line, that's how you boom and have an explosive jump. That's how you hit a PR. And when you practice doing that consistently over and over and over again, you'll be better. And one thing that I like to do is pretty much do visualization / walkthrough drills. I'll just have the bar up and I'll take one or two steps and just think about taking off. Putting that foot down, dorsiflex, pointing my toe up, boom, but putting my foot down at the proper angle. So not only is this a mental exercise, but it gets me in that concept or that mind of dorsiflexing my foot and putting it down at the proper angle at takeoff, right? So guys, just to go back through what we discussed so far, we talked about, pointing our foot in the right direction. Well, having the reason why dorsiflexion allows us to properly plant our foot in the right direction, right? And what that does for us is, if our foot is planted in the right direction, we're going to travel the way that our foot is planted, takeoff-wise. So we're going to be able to get past the bar and get our center of mass in the proper position, right? We also talked about how every step builds momentum. High jump is approach focused, and we need every step that we take. So if we're starting from the beginning, if we're taking 10 steps, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, we just walked through the benefit and the difference of what it would be like to have a loose ankle versus having a tight, stiff ankle going through the approach. And on top of that, sprint mechanics. Dorsiflexion is a part of having proper sprint mechanics. And we just talked about how the better we run, the higher we are going to jump. So we want to be very good at running. We want to be able to apply force into the ground. We want to be able to have a dorsiflex foot and pop that ground, attack that ground with each step that we take. Because the better we can do that, the more efficient our 8 to 10 or however many steps you take are going to be leading up into that takeoff, where the same thing applies. We're still trying to be dorsiflex at takeoff. So that, another thing we talked about, so that we can have the proper forces going through our leg as we're taking off in the right direction, right? So yes, guys, that was everything I have for you guys on why dorsiflexion is important in the high jump. It is a skill. It must be practiced. If you guys want to get used to it, you have to practice it in everything that you do. When you're doing your sprint drills, when you're doing your approaches, when you're doing your high jump drills, always be thinking toes up, dorsiflex. Okay? But yes, guys, that's everything I have for y'all. If you need more help with this, definitely DM me on Instagram at Dontavious Hill. But if you like this video, definitely like the video and subscribe to the channel so you can see more videos like this. But yeah, that was everything I have for you guys. We out of there.